Hey guys, Kyle here. So, just before the show starts, I wanted to mention our Patreon. You can pay us $1 a month as a thank you, as a tip. You can pay $2 a month to get access to one of our bonus content shows, episodes 2 days early, and a secret Discord chat where all of our Patreon donors get to go and hang out and talk with us directly. Then there's a $5 tier that you can donate to get access to a whole bunch more content. We have multiple bonus episodes on there. So please check it out. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We don't advertise, we don't make money. So check it out and throw some money if you think that would be cool. Thanks. Welcome to It Gets Weird, our comedy show where we explore the unusual, the unbelievable, and the unexplained to try and make your world a little weirder. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Niall.
And I almost said your name.
Really?
I almost said I was Niall.
How many episodes do we have to do before we can actually, like, completely, without any question, nail an intro?
I mean, I know I've done it before.
Yeah. But it's like, I feel like at this point we should be doing it more often than not. And I feel like every week one of us is just like, I almost did this, I fucked up this, or we have to do it twice. It's really kind of concerning.
You know what? I think because from my perspective, it's work is rotting my brain right now.
I can feel that.
And so I come here and I just like immediately like, you know, okay, like not to peek behind the curtain too much here, but like you do kind of have to put on a little bit of a performance when you're podcasting.
No,
like,
I talk like this all the time.
Yeah,
this is exactly how I act at all times.
Right. I wouldn't talk like this. And so like, I don't know, putting myself in that mental space sometimes is like in conflict with my I just got off work brain.
Yeah.
So I'm like half brain mush, half like trying to like get into shift into podcaster mode.
It's like times when I try to go out and run errands right after work and my brain is just not made the switch. So I like get to the store and I'm just like, I cannot tell you what I'm here for or what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what the fuck is going on.
I didn't even have a meeting today.
Yeah.
I just sat in silence all day looking at tech related issues. And that's what I did for 8 hours straight today, basically.
Damn.
And so I just like, and then I come here and it's like, oh, I haven't spoken today.
Yeah, I've got to be funny on a recorded medium and tell information, and I haven't spoken.
Well, one way to guarantee to be really funny is to talk about my work with tech-related issues.
Yeah.
You know, XKCD, the webcomic does it, and that's so funny.
Yeah, they've been going for so long, and frankly, like, still funny as day one. You know,
absolutely.
Do they actually still publish? Yeah, I honestly do not.
I think so. I used to read it back in the day. Fuck all that. What the fuck are we here for?
I don't know. This is your episode. You have to rein me in.
Right. Shit. I'm sorry. This is a Cryptid episode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No. This week, I decided to. I don't know. I go by vibes when I look into cryptids. Actually, here's how this episode developed for me. There's a little bit of a backstory on this one.
Okay.
I had a long car ride back from Chicago this weekend. And I was riding with friend of the show, Riley, who has been on this show, I think, one time many years ago now.
Yeah.
Good friend of ours. And we were driving back and it's like midnight on the road from Chicago. So like, I was trying to kind of help keep him awake. And I went and found some conspiracy articles and I read them aloud to him. So I read a 9/11 conspiracy thing to him. I read about a UFO related conspiracy thing. And I just read them aloud. And then I went to the Cryptid wiki. Mm-hmm. And we played a game called, I don't remember what he called it. It was Cryptid or something. I can't remember. But basically, I was going through the Cryptid wiki and I was going to tell him a name. And he was going to have to guess whether it was an actual cryptid or something I made up.
Fair enough.
So, like, the only name I remember, I think the two that I remember making up were, I think there was one called the Grundle Snatcher. And then I made up one.
Isn't that from Gravity Falls?
No. There's a similar
name, thing, yeah.
But it maybe is inspired by, but I think, because Grundle's like your taint.
Yeah.
So I was kind of imagining something that reaches up and grabs you by between the asshole and the genitals. Maybe kind of picks you up like a bowling ball.
Yeah.
But
picks it up like a bowling ball and rolls a strike right into hell.
Yes, exactly. So it was like I made up the Grundle Snatch. I think one was called the giant toothfish. Okay. Which is also not a real thing.
You really did work too hard, considering a lot of cryptids are the so and so place monster.
That's true. I went and looked for unique names, and that's what led me to my first of 2 West Virginian cryptids.
Oh, we're going.
So I went to West Virginia.
Okay.
I was reading about West Virginia stuff.
So were you rocking Riley like a wagon wheel?
Yes.
Okay.
I was, in fact, right. I was trying to keep him awake, so I wasn't like not rocking like a baby, but rocking out.
Okay.
And I don't know, West Virginia. It's like infamous for its density of cryptids, and it's home of the most famous cryptid of all time, Mothman. So,
is Mothman more famous than Bigfoot?
I think it's okay. That's fair. But the thing about Bigfoot is Bigfoot is like a type of cryptid to me, where Mothman's like a specific guy. But you're right. Bigfoot's probably more.
I was just curious because, like, I feel like Mothman has really had a surge of popularity due to internet-brained 20-somethings.
Definitely,
especially in the LGBTQ plus community, they fucking love Mothman.
Oh yeah,
and that's great. Like we support all of that. Take cryptids and horror icons as members of the LGBTQ plus community. Sounds great. But I think it's interesting looking at like Mothman's rise in popularity even since we started this podcast.
Yeah, it is surprising because like we covered Mothman so long ago now, like 5 years ago now. And
I think it's episode like 6.
It's really early. I remember the title of the episode too.
Yeah.
And it's like, Mothman's really exploded. But Bigfoot is like a species, whereas Mothman, I think, is a singular entity.
Yeah.
I haven't heard too many theories about like any idea that like Mothman is like an actual species of cryptid. It's typically like somebody will encounter some different cryptid and be like, could this be the same species as Mothman? But I've never heard like a definitive, all right, let me lay it out for you. Here's what the Mothmen are.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll let you get started. I was just like thinking about cryptid hierarchies, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's fun to think about. And let me tell you, what led me to this cryptid was its name.
Okay.
So while I was playing that fun game with Riley to help keep him awake, I encountered a creature known as the Abbagoochie.
The Abbagoochie.
Abbagoochie.
Okay.
So it's very odd. This is a very odd one, and you'll come to understand why. It gets shared on a lot of cryptozoology wikis, but a lot of the material outside of the wiki is kind of scant.
Okay.
It's strange. It's suspicious even how scant it is.
I'm really working my way into some joke about an Abba /Gucci like cross promotional campaign here.
Oh,
for because the Swedish pop band did get back together in recent years, and House of Gucci just came out. So I feel like both brands are really at kind of an apex point that would make sense for them to work together. And maybe they can find this cryptid and fill out the cryptid wiki in collaboration and as a cross promotional venture.
Cross promotion. That's a really good and well crafted joke. The only thought that entered my brain was who needs their Abbagoochie 8?
Yeah. No, I started, you got me on the Grundle Snatcher. So I started thinking about, Abba still like something with the gooch.
Yeah.
But there you go.
Yeah. So it's a silly name.
Yeah.
But the creature itself is not very. It is kind of silly. I'll have a photo for you in a little bit here, but it's this little guy. I kind of got the impression that it was maybe about the size of like a fox.
Sorry, the phrase "some cryptids are just little guys" just came in my brain, and it made me laugh.
There are quite a few cryptids that are just little guys, and I'm going to go ahead and say that this is a little guy.
Okay.
It's not too little, but it's not too big either, right? It's like a medium size. Right. Yeah, this is just right.
Little Red Riding Hood would find this cryptid just a perfect size.
Yes, Little Red Riding Hood would appreciate the size of this particular cryptid. So it's said that this thing resembles a cross between an owl, a fox, and a deer. And that's sort of accurate. Here's the thing. if you want to find photos of the thing, you will really only ever see its face. A lot of the rest of it is open to interpretation. But I've seen illustrations depicting it, and it does kind of have like a deer-like body, but it's also got like an owl sort of face that got smashed. Like its face literally looks like if you took an owl, gave it like big weird eyes, and like smushed its face up a bit.
I think I understand what you're saying, but owls already have big eyes and have very flat faces. Yeah, so I'm trying to like in my brain just crank those things up to like anime levels.
Pluck out the eyes of an owl. Okay. Insert the eyes of something almost.
What are those little fucking like? Are they lemurs that have the really big bug eyes?
Are you thinking of a bush baby? Maybe.
Yes. Okay. Bush babies. Now I'm thinking like proportionally that.
They're yes, so big. Well, kind of. It's more that it doesn't have an owl's eyes. It has eyes that were almost like. Well, let me scroll down to the picture to give you give you a better description here. Okay, that's right. That's what it is. So it's not that the eyes aren't crazy big, but they're big, and what it is about them is that they are a little human-like.
Okay.
The way they're very weird looking. But like you can kind of like, so picture the owl face with like human looking eyes. You smash it a bit. You remove the beak. Put like a little, I don't know, toothy, foxy mouth there, and then supposedly has like a deer-like sort of body.
Okay.
It's very weird. So, and honestly, the lore about this thing is very weird. So supposedly the creature is indigenous to Costa Rica, and in Costa Rica, we'll get there.
Yeah, sorry, I just took a double take.
Because we're in West Virginia, right?
Yeah.
Well, supposedly indigenous to Costa Rica. And also
the Nazis brought the Abbagoochie up to West Virginia during Project Paperclip.
I mean, that would be an extra layer because here's the thing.
Yeah.
The Abbagoochie, we'll get to it, they were brought to West Virginia.
Oh, okay.
So whether or not Nazis from Operation Paperclip are involved, that remains to be seen. We could maybe unpack that, see if we could dig into that idea and see how well it connects. I think the timeline's a little awkward because this is in the 90s.
Okay. Yeah.
But Mengele could have been while he was serial killing for the CIA or whatever.
Yeah.
He
while
could have
he was
had a
busy
side
being
hustle.
Every serial killer.
Yeah, fostering Abbagoochie.
Mm-hmm.
So in Costa Rica, I guess they refer to the creature as a, quote, dryland piranha because apparently the Abbagoochie will eat literally anything. This includes any creature that's much larger than itself. So it'll just straight up munch down cows and horses.
Interesting. Okay, so this thing could really get into like a little old lady who swallowed a horse territory pretty quickly.
Yes, it's. I mean, like I'm just picturing like little critters running on the land, and you just toss like it's like dumping a cow into like a piranha infested waters. Like they just like fucking immediately strip it to the bone.
Does this thing like work in packs, or is it a solitary creature?
There's not a lot of info on that.
Fair.
So it'll eat these big creatures. Here's a statement that confuses me still a little bit. I kind of get what they're saying, but it's weird. I guess that if you corner the creature, if it feels threatened and backed into a corner,
it goes right for the gooch.
It goes right for the gooch, and a giant fist comes out and fucking punches you as hard as it can. No, it will supposedly, quote, consume itself in a devilish whirlwind instead of allowing it to be captured or cornered.
So it turns into the Tasmanian devil, but devours itself?
Yeah, or like the whirlwind weasel.
Right.
From Japanese yokai lore.
Right. Okay.
So I guess it can like whirlwind it. I don't know. It's
when it says it will eat anything, it's pretty literal in that it will even eat itself.
I guess so.
Okay.
It doesn't explicitly say that it says consume itself, but I don't know whether it means it will eat itself or whether it just means, I mean, maybe that's what it means.
What else does it mean? Could it mean?
I guess, yeah. It reads almost like weirdly translated to me, but I don't think it is translated. This is like an actual like West Virginian take on the creature.
So this thing does not want to be captured in any way, shape, or form.
So it'll eat itself.
When backed into a corner, it goes into self-destruct mode.
I guess so.
How does...
And here's the thing. That's not the only thing about it that probably makes it really just on the fucking endangered list, because they only mate every 6.5 to 7 years.
We know the mating cycle of these things.
Yep. Yes, we do.
Okay.
So
do we know a lifespan?
Not really.
Okay.
No. There's info about this thing, but then there's a lot of details that
I totally understand that you're working with what you can find here. It's just like, if we have a mating cycle, how weird that is, I feel like, is relative to its life cycle.
Right.
Because
that makes sense.
If it has a really long life cycle, mating every 6 or 7 years, whatever, is fine. But if it only lives for 14 years, then it has 1 to 2 shots at it.
Yeah.
Depending.
Yes, exactly. It is an odd idea.
And hey, if it gets backed into a corner, it's just going to devour itself anyway. So
yes.
And yeah.
So the thing is, all this information kind of spawns off of one thing. So we'll tell you what, we'll get there. So in 1999, the West Virginia Division of Natural Resources took 13 baby Abbagoochies that they brought in from Costa Rica, and they took them into West Virginia. And the idea was that this was going to act as population control for overpopulated predators such as coyotes and rattlesnakes. Now, there are other ways to handle that problem.
Other than cryptids? Yeah.
Yeah, and on top of that, like, if what they're telling me about this creature is true and that it just eats everything, you're going to end up with it. First of all, people may not realize this. Invasive species, always a bad thing.
Yeah.
Always. It has like never been a good thing. Maybe once or twice it has worked out. But generally an invasive species is just terrible for the environment.
But what you're telling me here is we have a cryptid that there is a government requisition
that is aware of it.
And I'm saying there is paperwork for bringing it into West Virginia from so there is overseas shipping or maybe overland shipping manifestos about this thing. There's stuff about the Wildlife Service that brought it in. There is some sort of sales order to an international business. There is all of the like,
and presumably there's some sort of like Abbagoochie containment unit brought in, because I'm assuming that anytime they tried to put them in like a crate or whatever,
they would just kill themselves.
Whirlwind and go like the Tasmanian devil and fuck everything up.
So this might be the episode where I finally start my first Freedom of Information Act campaign.
Well, hold on to that.
Okay.
Soon after bringing the creatures to West Virginia, one man named Jim Wilson reported in the newspaper The Webster Echo in February 2001 that the Abbagoochie had actually out-multiplied itself and like became completely out of control and began killing livestock. Who'da thunk?
Yeah, right? Invasive species doing what invasive species do.
Yeah,
I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop about this thing, because like this is a very weird amount of information to have about a cryptid, because normally it's like a bunch of people seeing it in the woods, but this one is just like, hey, the government bought 13 of these things and they got out of control. What kind of fucking cryptid is this?
Yeah, well, soon after his article went out into the world, sightings of Abbagoochies started happening around the region of West Virginia that they were brought into, which I don't know the specific region. I just know that they were brought into West Virginia, presumably somewhere in Appalachia, probably like in wilderness.
Yeah. Okay.
Some of the farmers who were seeing these creatures began, loading up their shotguns and trying to protect their livestock. And parents began escorting children to their school buses back and forth. And just like children were considered unsafe, so they were, hounded by their parents. And apparently one man supposedly reported that he had accidentally run over an Abbagoochie, killing it.
I'm laughing because I'm so just waiting for you to be like, and it turns out this all comes from a hoax that was perpetuated on the internet from this one website to sell t-shirts or some shit.
Yeah. It's kind of. So,
yeah.
Also in January of 2001, a man named David Van de Vander, which sounds made up.
Yeah.
This guy
also sounds like the front man of like a 90s emo band.
Does.
In the David Van Bolen kind of
yes.
Oov, you know?
Yes. Well, this guy was a taxidermist, and he, I guess, created a head mount of an Abbagoochie. And supposedly what had happened was there were hunters and fishermen that had come into his shop and described what they had witnessed in the woods and on the waters, presumably in Abbagoochie. Now, this guy, David, had never seen one of these things. So every time somebody gave him a description, he would sketch what they were telling him about.
Mm-hmm.
Once he'd had enough descriptions under his belt, he then purchased, I guess, supplies to create the mount based off these sketches.
Oh, so he doesn't have an actual killed thing that he stuffed and mounted.
He has a witness sketch.
He got he crowdsourced what these things look like, and then using various animal furs and stuff, created his own version.
He basically created a really morbid chimera taxidermy.
Okay.
And apparently, according to this article, whenever the fishermen and the hunters would come in to this guy's shop after he put up this taxidermy bust of the Abbagoochie, they would say, "Yep, that's exactly what we saw."
Bust like
I don't know. Okay, I don't know. I really, in retrospect, awkward move by me.
You put a lot of stank on that one. Look, I'm not against it. It took me off guard.
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm so sorry. No. So February.
This thing made me bust.
So February 2001. This is when we get the original articles. I'm reading from a timeline here.
Okay.
This is when we get the original article in the Webster Echo. So the taxidermy predates the article. And this is what causes panic to spread. Then February, not long after, literally a week after the panic has ensued from the original article, Tom Clark, owner of the newspaper, puts out an editorial saying, actually, the whole thing, all of the Abbagoochie shit, all a hoax.
Okay.
Fast forward to March 15th, 2002. Jubert Russell of Birch River, West Virginia, claims to have successfully captured an Abbagoochie behind his house in the woods. And from there, it was, I guess, taken to Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore, Maryland for a brain lobotomy.
Okay.
Yeah, the guy who caught it, not the Abbagoochie.
Okay. No, I'm just like, it's funny that someone's like, no, I caught one after the newspaper says, oh, we made it up. It's false.
Well,
it never
apparently, happened. Jubert's wife, Jim Wilson, the guy who wrote the original article, and two other people all claim to be eyewitnesses to this event.
Okay. And that it was brought into a hospital, so there's probably security cam footage and stuff of it.
You know, you'd think.
Yeah. I'm sure this is really well documented.
Yeah. March 2002, Pete Baldwin, who is a senior FBI official, who contacts the WVDNR, the group that I guess supposedly brought the Abbagoochies to West Virginia. He, I guess, put together a small secret task force.
Fantastic. Will you join my Abbagoochie task force? We have customized monogram jackets from Gucci with the members of Abba across the back.
This is the crossover you've all been waiting for. So apparently this task force was put together in response to the fact that missing person reports from a number of areas in West Virginia, especially in mountainous areas, counties throughout those areas, the missing person numbers were starting to go up.
Okay.
And I guess that these FBI agents would go out disguised as fishermen and hunters, and the entire time their whole thing was just they're there to kill and every last remaining Abbagoochie in the area.
Interesting. So there's now a fucking Abbagoochie hit squad out there.
Yes.
Fantastic. Do you think that they're wearing what, like Air Supply Louis Vuitton kind of thing?
Yeah, they got that Gucci. They got that Louis. So they're like out there trying to find Abbagoochie. I I don't know. I'm trying to think of like where this gag is from, but I'm just picturing like a fisherman in the nearby river, and there's like a hunter with a rifle like not too far off or whatever, and all these very disguised guys, and then they just pull out like high-tech gadgetry and like signal each other and stuff.
A lot of people talking into their like cuffs on their shirts and stuff.
Yeah, one's talking into the deer carcass slung over their shoulder.
Someone takes their shoe off and they have a shoe phone. You know?
Yeah.
Cool. So only the best tech and only the most goofy tech and most like ridiculous TV show spy technology.
That's
for
right.
The Abbagoochie task force.
That's what I mean, I feel like to conquer a creature with the name as silly as Abbagoochie, you got it. You got to pull out.
You must become a clown yourself. It's truly a to defeat Yano, we must become Yano type moment.
Yes. Now I'm just gonna read this part of the timeline straight. Just quote it because I love it. This FBI task force repeatedly came up empty-handed. The government, fearful of the looming potential of mass hysteria in a post-9/11 culture, required the FBI to turn this Abbagoochie threat over to the Department of Homeland Security, who heightened the intensity of the hunt.
What the fuck? The phrase, because in the post 9/11 climate being added to this just sent a shiver through my body. Like, that is not like, I know that we started in 99 here, so I should have expected it, but it just like, that took me so off guard. It's like you slapped me with a warm towel.
I mean, can you imagine rolling up to the desk of the head of the Department of Homeland Security, tossing a picture of this fucking thing on their desk and saying, given that it's a post 9/11 climate,
given the political climate and everyone's kind of on edge, we need to get government, like nationwide government resources to hunt down this like weird fucking deer cryptid in West Virginia.
It's so stupid.
Because they're not cutting it at a local level.
So in 2008, Jim Wilson, the guy who originally published the article about the creature, publishes a book titled Abbagoochie Gotcha, The Making of a Legend.
I think he's the legend for that title.
I agree. And then by May of 2008, I guess several state and federal officials, joining with Wilson's family's attorney, visit Jim. They go and they talk to Jim. And this meeting, I guess he was sworn to secrecy about it, forbidden to ever actually tell anyone what he knew about these Abbagoochies. He signed a non-disclosure agreement. He will only acknowledge, according to this article, he is only allowed to acknowledge the Abbagoochie as a hoax, which is how the book portrays it. His book that he published portrays it as a full-on hoax.
Okay. So
2008, towards the end of the year, the missing person reports numbers keep going up at a quote-unquote alarming rate, particularly in the Potomac Highlands region of West Virginia. This is when Jim, I guess, realizes that he made a mistake in swearing to secrecy about the Abbagoochie. And he starts to share information with his family.
Okay.
So this kind of ends saying that to this present day, and this is an article from like 2010.
Okay.
Jim Wilson is basically joined by his son and his teenage daughter to investigate the Abbagoochie and try to uncover the truth of the not actual hoax of the Abbagoochie.
This is a fucking emotional roller coaster.
Yep.
Going in. So what part is the hoax, and what, like, is the whole bringing in from Costa Rica the hoax, and then it's not a hoax that they're there? What the fuck is going on?
The hoax is that they exist and the FBI wants him to swear to secrecy about it. But he regretted it. And you know how the FBI works, where like if you regret it, you can back out.
Yeah, and no punishment. If you're they don't have a no take backs clause.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no takesy backsies. Man. And I even have the article that is supposedly a psyop, like claiming it's a hoax so it's Yeah, I have the editorial here. Like you can actually find it online. It's kept in a book. So supposedly that was never, it was a hoax. And then actually Jim Wilson, the original guy, is like, actually, it totally isn't a hoax. And I was sworn to secrecy. I'm going to hunt this thing down though. Me and my teenage daughter.
Was he pitching like a Discovery Channel show or something? Like,
it's hard to say.
What is the, I always look for, in something that's this kind of dicey, I always look for who makes money how.
Yeah.
And like books, sure.
It is weird. He published a book about it, and he was planning on publishing another book that has never come out.
Okay. Because the FBI got him.
Because the FBI probably got him. Now, looking into this beyond his version of the story is where it gets odd. There are like no sources. There's just his book. And there's like a couple of small blog posts from him. Now, what I thought was kind of funny was one person offers a counter to Jim Wilson's version of the Abbagoochie story. But the thing is, this one we have to take with another big grain of salt, because this is a comment in response to the Cryptid wiki article about it.
Okay.
So here's what this person says.
Yep.
Quote, just for the record, the Abbagoochie is not a hoax. While, yes, a hoax was perpetrated in 2001 involving the story concocted by Jim Wilson in the Webster Echo, this was not the origin of the Abbagoochie. No, this was simply an attempt to revitalize and commercialize an earlier set of events dating back to 1992 that took place primarily in and around Upshur County, West Virginia. The original events from 1992 are those in which the name Abbagoochie was coined. Not to mention that the descriptions of this creature were a match to those of the Sago monster and the Stone Coal monster from the 1960s, in the very same area. Descriptions that are vastly different from those of the 2001 hoax descriptions. The Abbagoochie is not described as being a small creature. It has been described by many eyewitnesses as having resembled a deformed wolverine or badger, the size of a small car.
Jesus.
A form that looked nothing like any bear. It was reported to have rampaged through a campground in broad daylight, killed several cows, sheep, and dogs, and was sighted on several properties throughout Upshur County from fall of 1991 to spring of 1992. Locals were angry. Hunting parties were formed. More sightings were reported. I recall a Panther Research Center posting an ad proposing that this was possibly a black panther. Another ad was posted from a different source stating, if you find it, do not shoot it. Witnesses who had never met each other gave identical testimonies, and all artist renditions matched perfectly. Then, suddenly, nothing. These are the events that started it all, and nearly a decade later, a writer from a neighboring county decided to discredit every bit of it by publishing that pathetic drivel for his own gain and publicity. I was there in Upshur County in 1991 and 1992. I remember it all clear as day, and this is written by Jamie Hitt in 2019 on the Wikipedia page for the Abbagoochie.
Okay. That's probably the only place I've ever been happy to hear the phrase hoax 2001 be used on the internet. In most other cases, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
so instead of being just a little guy,
it might be a deformed badger the size of a car. Maybe.
Yeah, the size is like a Fiat.
I mean,
we're talking about a small car here.
The thing is, that is a slightly more reasonable story because, like, I can imagine, I know what you mean. Like, maybe a panther escaped a zoo.
Yeah,
and people report it, but they are like so freaked out by it that they're kind of like exaggerating details as people do.
And hey, maybe its fur got matted and it got stung by wasps, so it looks weird.
Yeah,
like I that's kind of a joke, but it also isn't. Like
the wasps.
Anytime there's a creature that people see and it looks kind of like this thing, but not really. I'm always just like, especially if it's from captivity and it goes out into the wild.
Yeah,
it is more susceptible to things that would have a like minor to major effect on its appearance.
Yeah,
in attacks or reactions to bushes that it's not used to. Like that kind of shit.
It could be all kinds of stuff, but I don't know about this story either. I just have that comment to go by.
And you didn't find anything about those the other creatures that it mentioned. The Sawo monster or something.
I should have looked those up.
Fair.
Because I was just kind of focused on the Abbagoochie. Maybe I'll investigate that. Because, like,
look, there's no need to burn future topics. Right. We can do this.
You could do so many entries on just West Virginia cryptids. So like we'll get back to it. Actually, one of the things that I ran into that I'm like, I absolutely want to talk about this, and I want to talk about it with Garrett, because there is a trio of legendary monsters in the in West Virginia, specifically in the Monongahela.
Okay.
And they're all just like crazy river monsters. And Garrett's like, Garrett will know about these.
Garrett loves
guaranteed.
river monsters,
so
yeah.
I would love to do that one sometime too. So there's plenty of West Virginia content. So you can find Jim Wilson's blog posts from 2010 about the Abbagoochie, which seems to be mostly managed by his daughter. On that blog, they claim that they are hunting down the remaining Abbagoochies, and they promote a book that was supposed to come out, never did, called The Hoax That Wasn't, which was a follow-up to Abbagoochie Gotcha.
Not nearly as snappy of a title.
No. Well, it's funny because like Abbagoochie Gotcha, yeah, it's like, oh, it's all a hoax and we're tongue-in-cheek and having fun. And then the next one is like, The Hoax That Wasn't. Actually, we're serious about this.
And then the third, eventually you put out a third book that says, in retrospect, it was a hoax.
Yeah.
It'll really eventually get to the O.J. Simpson, like, if I did it, here's how I would have done it, kind of naming kind of scale kind of thing.
Now, here's what their website, their blog says about it. So, and I believe this is written by the daughter. It says, this book follows the Abbagoochie hoax through a series of deeply personal events leading up to the disclosure of what my father really knows about these ferocious creatures, despite having being sworn to secrecy by state and federal officials in a May 15th, 2008 mandatory meeting held by officials. This disclosure puts me in a position I don't initially want to be in. My torment, anguish, and confusion with this information is intense. It is a struggle between perceived reality and factual falsehoods.
So he wasn't sworn to secrecy until 2008?
Well, that's when they stepped in and supposedly hunted Jim down and like talked to him about it, I guess.
Okay. So there was okay.
That's fine. Like his original article came out in 2001. He puts out I don't know what the delay in time is there, but it's like 2000.
The first book didn't sell well enough, he had to,
join me as I set out on this journey to validate the information which my father so painstakingly revealed. This pursuit of the truth puts me in several mind-twisting encounters with both civilian and government personnel before the truth is known. It becomes a factual reality. Significant increase in missing person reports from several West Virginia counties catch the attention of the West Virginia State Police, who in turn contact the FBI. The FBI soon assigns a small task force disguised as fishermen and hunters to find, kill, and extinguish the remaining Abbagoochies.
Okay, that's the thing that I kind of glossed over that earlier when you were talking about it because there was enough other like ridiculous stuff happening in this story. But so they're saying that the missing person cases in West Virginia are tied to the Abbagoochie, meaning the Abbagoochie are eating people?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. It's not like missing 411 shit. We're talking like animals just eating them.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I'm so hung up on this today, but the fact that this is like that this keeps involving not like CIA or NSA like super kind of cloaked stuff.
Yeah.
It's like there are multiple cases where there should be a government file about this.
Yeah, it is kind of unique in that I don't typically read about the government getting involved in a cryptid case.
And a lot of times if they do, it's like Men in Black or something where there's not going to be any official record. This is one of those cases where it's just like, you know what, fuck it. Let's try to get a Freedom of Information Act thing about missing person cases in West Virginia related to the Abbagoochie.
It's very weird. I'm assuming it probably doesn't exist.
Probably not.
But yeah, it goes on to say, this task force repeatedly comes up empty-handed, and now the government is becoming increasingly agitated and worried about the looming potential of mass hysteria. This is also a thing that I don't fully understand is like, this is being written in 2010, a full almost decade after the Abbagoochie was released in the wild, multiplied and killed tons of people, apparently.
Yeah.
The FBI turned this Abbagoochie threat over to the department. Okay, it goes on. In light of the circumstantial happenstance and inside maneuvers, my daughter and I dedicate our lives to the eradication of the Abbagoochies. However, in so doing, find ourselves in the midst of a much larger assignment. In a bizarre and completely unforeseen turn of events, this assignment completely challenges all that we thought we knew about the Abbagoochies and life in general.
What?
So this was their blog where they were, I guess, promoting this book that was going to come out. And guess what? The book did not come out.
Got silenced.
So it got silenced.
It didn't. There wasn't. here's the thing, guys. You can just self-publish things through Amazon. The books don't look great, but you can do it. So if you really want this to get out there, daughter of this man that made up the Abbagoochie, consider that.
Yeah. Now, one of the other things that I really like about this book, to kind of try and give themselves an official sort of sounding bit of text, they note the names of all of the original 13 Abbagoochies brought to West Virginia.
They have names?
They have names.
Please tell me you have a list of these names.
I do. The male names are Bagoo, Gabe, Bo, Eku, Boog, Chooch, Abe, Chi, and Baji.
Man, the new Raw roster is looking great.
I was going to say, which one of those is the little fucking Yoda?
Well, Boog is
Boog.
Bugenhausen. Rick Boogs is a wrestler in WWE.
Okay. Well, the females are Babs, Abby, Aggie, and Gaby.
Fantastic.
Gabby, I guess. It's spelled like Gabby? But outside of this blog, everything else you can find about the creature reads like cryptozoological roleplay. I'm not kidding. There's like this fictional online museum that curates information about cryptids. It's a cool website, but like it adds like, there's like at the very bottom, there's like stats for the creature. And there's all this like extra reading into it where they're like, well, we think that the Abbagoochie might be the chimera from like ancient myth and all this stuff.
Look, I get the inclination to try to add some historical weight to this thing.
Yeah.
But that means that the chimera would have had to have ended up in Costa Rica and then been.
It's a little weird.
Taken up to West Virginia. So
now the other weird thing to me is I found out that there is an Abbagoochie subreddit.
Really?
But it has like 10 posts on it, and it's 10 posts by like 2 different people. But it does use images of the supposed Abbagoochie to make really weird memes.
Oh, there's Abbagoochie memes. Okay.
So here, I'll just show this to you. You will see what the Abbagoochie looks like, and it also has meme text on it for some reason.
It's fantastic.
So here you go. That's the Abbagoochie.
It looks like a gremlin.
Yeah, it kind of does look like a gremlin.
Is that the gremlin? I always, since I haven't seen
Gizmo.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then yes, that's what I'm thinking.
Kinda. Except gremlins are like more leathery, and this guy's like furry and white.
Okay, then am I thinking of the wrong thing? The ones I'm thinking of are furry. It has that kind of fur pattern.
Well,
there's another one that starts with G, and I always forget which one's which.
Are you thinking of the Mogwai?
Yeah,
because that's what the gremlins look like before they get all nasty.
Then
right?
I'm thinking of the Mogwai.
Yeah, I haven't seen Gremlins in probably 15 years, so I could get some facts wrong here.
I've never seen it.
Oh, really? Yeah. I remember liking it when I was younger, but it's been a very long time. So, so that's our first cryptid. We have one more to get to.
Oh, okay.
It's well, okay. So our next cryptid comes out of reports from a group called the National Cryptid Society, or NCS. As far as I can tell, there are really only 2 reports from this creature. One that's very detailed and one that's not. And this is so Niall, this is a monster known as the Beast of Beckley.
Beast of Beckley, huh? Okay. So this is yet again, now I said something monster, but this is a very Beast common name nomenclature.
Yeah. Well, the NCS, it's kind of a cool website because it's just like user submitted stories about these cryptids.
Okay.
But the story of the Beast of Beckley has spread a little bit to other corners of the internet.
Okay.
So on the NCS, you can find these 2 reports of this creature. But I guess it's like a somewhat well-known enough West Virginia cryptid that Fallout 76 has a monster enemy called the Beast of Beckley in their Wild Appalachia update.
Do they have an Abbagoochie?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. I didn't run into that. Now, Fallout 76 depicts the creature as very wolf-like, but the original report of the creature paints a very different story. So our first encounter was submitted by a user who only went by the name Raven, and they sent this on March 9th, 2019. So strap in. This is a detailed report of this thing.
Fantastic.
So here's what they say. For years, there's been something stalking the woods surrounding the area where I grew up, and it does not like that it has been noticed. This, by the way, this story has a very different tenor of from the Abbagoochie. It's much creepier.
Okay.
The first encounter was actually not by me, but by my younger brother sometime around 2001 to 2002. My mother received a phone call from my grandmother around 8 p.m. one summer evening, asking her to come down and pick my brother up. Grandma lived just a minute's walk down the dirt road from her house, easily within view from the front porch, so asking my mom to come down and get my brother personally was odd. When my mom brought my brother home, he was in tears. He claimed he saw a creature while he was playing in the yard space between my aunt's and grandparents' properties. He said it was black with yellow eyes, taller than our dad, who is 6'4", and was smiling at him with sharp teeth. It was days before he slept normally again. Mom and Grandma chalked it up to him seeing a bear that had wandered up from the woods, and the rest was either his imagination or the bear had been baring its teeth at him. I did too for a time until I hit age 15 a few years later. I told the story to a friend of mine that was staying over one weekend. She was intrigued, and being silly teenagers, we decided to venture out towards the woods after dark. We approached the edge of the woods that bordered my grandparents' property, but I lost my nerve thanks to a bad feeling in my gut and decided not to go any further. My friend left me behind and headed down the hill to a small clearing while I remained by some chestnut trees. I sat there for a few minutes, singing quietly to myself to calm my nerves, when I looked over at the nearby brush and noticed a crouched black form with 4 yellow eyes staring back at me. I scrambled to my feet and called for my friend, who ran my way from her position in the clearing. She slipped on some mud and fell right in front of the creature, distracting it for only a second before its eyes returned to me. I pointed at the eyes and asked her if she was seeing what I saw, not believing my own eyes. She confirmed that she did, and like a fool, I reached down for a fallen tree branch and took a step towards the thing. It roared at us unlike any other thing I've ever heard in my life. We turned tail and ran as fast as we could back to my house and didn't dare to see if it had followed. We returned the next day to find gashes in some of the surrounding trees, like huge claws had torn into them. There was no other sign of the thing we had seen. Afterwards, the entire experience felt like a hazy nightmare for both of us. And so, fool teenagers that we were, we continued to venture out after dark whenever my friend came to visit, hoping for another glimpse of the creature. We told no one of our first encounter for fear of being written off as my younger brother had been. I avoided telling my brother, especially because I didn't want to scare him or make him think I was teasing him. We spotted it several more times after that, over some years, usually from afar since we tried keeping a safe distance from the woods after that first time. There were many times I swear I could feel its presence outside after dark, usually when the weather was warm. It always lurked in the shadows, always out of reach of any light, noticeable only by those yellow eyes. The most troubling thing of all was that the creature seemed to follow me wherever I went. Several occasions occurred when my friend and I encountered it while I was visiting her house across town. Another time, I could have sworn I felt its presence while we were visiting family in South Carolina. This was later confirmed by my brother. On several occasions while at my friend's house, we saw its eyes from the tree line glaring at us. That is a unique trait that I have never heard of in a
yeah.
Cryptid. Usually sometimes you'll be like, oh, a demon or a haunting will follow you where you go. A cryptid following you suggests that A, maybe it like specifically lives around this area, and B, has some level of I don't know whether I want to say sentience.
I mean,
but
that would make sense. But yeah, that is strange because I like you said there. I don't know of a cryptid that has followed a specific person or like imprinted on a specific person in this way, and it's especially interesting that it didn't imprint on her brother who saw the thing first, or maybe it did.
Maybe it did. We don't know that for sure. Yeah. It seems to follow this family.
So that's interesting. It does immediately make me think of some sort of demonic presence because those things usually are tied to a person more so than a specific place. But is there an actual description of the creature other than taller than her dad and four yellow eyes?
That's the thing is it's pretty nondescript itself.
Okay.
Because it is basically like a big mass of blackness with 4 yellow eyes.
Okay.
Which also, again, to me suggests demonic. I have a sketch of the creature here in a little bit, but it does everything about this just makes me think, oh, it's a demon.
Yeah.
But they also kind of suggest that there's physicality to it as well. So I don't know. It's a weird one.
Yeah, this is strange.
Could all be made up, but
for sure, that's that could be the name of the fucking show, my dude. Like we got to play along with the bit here.
True. I tried again to at their friend's house they saw the eyes. I tried again to approach it a few times, but always was unable to get very close for fear of my own personal safety. I never could see more to its form aside from the eyes. It was always just like they floated there in the dark. The last sighting I had of the creature personally was in November of 2011 when I came home after seeing I love how specific this detail is. In November of 2011 when I came home after seeing a midnight showing of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. It was close to 3 a.m. when I came home that night. I stopped in the kitchen to get something to drink before bed when I saw it from the dining room window, the best view of it that I'd ever gotten in all of my years of dealing with it. It was just outside the fence around our yard, standing in front of my dad's truck just a short ways from the front door. It towered above the vehicle, but that may have been because it was standing on a spot where the land slopes right in front of where it was parked. I couldn't see any other defining features in the darkness. To me, it was just a hulking humanoid figure that was almost as black as the night around it. But that was all of its body that I could see, just a tall, abyssal form. Its eyes pierced me through the window. It was only a few seconds that we stared at each other, and yet at the same time, it somehow felt like hours. And then it ran out of sight towards the woods faster than anything I'd ever seen. It wasn't until after it was gone that I realized it was so close to where I had parked when I came home, next to Dad's truck. If it was already at the fence by the time I had gotten inside the house, then it must have already been close by when I pulled up. I felt sick when the realization came to me, and I kept looking outside to see if I could spot where it had gone. Minutes after that, my dad came into the room, getting ready to leave for work. He always left around 3:30 a.m. back then. He asked me what I was doing, and I could only tell him that I saw something weird outside, since I figured he'd think I was crazy if I told him the truth. I watched him go down to his truck to leave for work just in case. Nothing happened. 4 years later, in 2015, I moved out of my parents' home and away from the woods to a more populated part of town. As a result, I've thankfully not had any experiences where I'm currently living, but things still persist back home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was curious, because the last time she saw was in 2011. And when was the first time? Was it 2001?
2002, I believe.
2002. Okay. I thought it was 2001.
So
that would make that would actually I could break this thing wide open if it was 2001.
It's all
And here's why.
Yeah.
Do you know why?
Go ahead.
So the last time she saw it was after seeing a midnight showing of Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
Sorcerer's Stone, the movie, comes out in 2001. So the haunting of this thing.
I think her brother saw it in 2001. She saw it in 2002.
Okay. So this thing, I think, is tied to the theatrical franchise of Harry Potter films.
Okay, wow. We're going to have to unfucking pack that.
Yeah. It is a curse for giving J.K. Rowling money.
Hey, look. I saw a lot of Harry Potter movies and read a lot of Harry Potter books back in the day.
I did too, but look,
if I
was being haunted by floating eyes in the forest, I would feel justified.
This does now make me wonder if my IBS is the J.K. Rowling curse. It's a possibility now.
Look, it cursed an entire generation. Yeah. That's why this generation's having so much trouble. It's because we read Harry Potter as a kid.
Yeah, that really
and
fucked us.
Not in the way that Christians don't want you to read it, but in the way that J.K. Rowling sucks as a person.
Oh, I was saying in the Christian way.
Oh, okay.
So I guess both can be true.
Yeah.
So,
she's an agent of the Anunnaki and is bringing dark energies into this world.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It goes on to say, both of my brothers say they've started hearing roars and screams in the night coming from the woods. The one that first saw the thing all those years ago swears that it's the creature. Our younger brother claims to have seen it recently in February 2019, but given my experiences, it's odd for it to be around this time of year. I've tried to research creatures that fit the description of what lurks around my parents' home, but nothing ever turns up about yellow-eyed creatures. I'm posting this here in the hopes that others with similar experiences might come forward and allow me to narrow down just what this thing is exactly. It's been haunting us for years, and right now it doesn't look like it will be letting up anytime soon. The eyes were patterned like so, and here I have the image, in the attached sketch on the front of its head. They had no pupils and were the same uniform yellow-amber color. So here you go now. That is the Beast of Beckley.
Yeah, just a yellow-eyed, black
formless mass.
Yeah. Okay.
It was quite large from what I could always tell. It was definitely significantly taller than my father, so maybe close to 6'8".
It's taller than my dad. It's
just it really, could beat my dad's ass.
It's yeah, it has that energy. The fact that is always the reference point, not like there's no like I think it's approximately this height or something. Like it does have the 6'8", but like, I mean, it's taller than my dad who's 6'4".
It does also make sense though, because like they're kids and they're seeing this like figure with eyes, and it's like, so well, what's the tallest guy I know?
I get it. It's just funny.
So, it was always hard to take notice of the form around it. Every time I saw outside of the final time, it was obscured by tree branches and the like. The sketch is the best I can describe its appearance. It was like pure pitch around the eyes, but it was very tall and large, thickly built. I couldn't get a look at anything further down from its upper body, as it was obscured by the flower bushes that my mom had planted in front of where it was standing. My friend and I found gashes in the trees the next morning after our first sighting and a few times after it, but we didn't want to get too close to further inspect them thanks to poison ivy around them. I avoided provoking it or wanting anything to do with it as I got older, so I stopped looking for evidence altogether. That last time, I didn't see anything noticeable from where it was standing in front of the truck, but then again, it didn't occur to me to look either. That was in 2011, and I hadn't seen or heard anything at all since I moved out in 2015. This past month, though, both my brothers have told me there have been some strange things happening again back home. They've seen strange lights outside in the woods, and the youngest one says he heard screeching coming from the area of the woods where I most often saw the creature. As of this email, however, there haven't been any further sightings of the creature.
Okay. So now I might have... Lights would definitely be a different thing.
Lights would be a different thing.
Yeah.
So, who knows? This one is kind of anomalous, I realize.
Yeah.
And not very many sources. But since it came out in 2019, maybe we'll hear more about it as the years go by.
I would love to develop some more kind of the moment cryptids, you know?
Yeah. It would be nice to hear more about modern cryptids. There is one, so I only have one other report of the creature. This one was from a user who only referred to themselves as Laura C. And they claim to have witnessed the Beckley Beast on May 19th, 1996.
Oh.
And she offers a much briefer account of the beast. So here's what she says. I have seen the Beckley Beast before. I only told my mother. She said I was crazy. It was at least 6 feet tall, body of a black bear on its back legs, vampire teeth in its mouth all around, 4 glowing bright yellow eyes, and extremely razor-sharp claws. I was in the woods of my backyard exploring like a child normally does when he chased me out to the end of the woods. I have seen it follow me whenever I have moved. Oh God, they wrote this weird. I have seen it follow me wherever I have moved to since at least once a year. It comes to me in my nightmares while I am asleep. I have woken up with unexplained scars, scratches, and bruising. It has come very close to catching me in my dreams. It feeds off of fear.
Okay, so, this definitely seems more like a poltergeist or some sort of demonic thing.
Yeah, this one is very interesting to me because I don't think I've ever heard of a demonic entity that like lives in the woods and stalks you from the woods and has this like level of like usually if something wants to have physicality, it needs to manifest in some way, and it's usually attached to a person, and that person's usually in a house. So this is the first time where I've been like, so it straddles this line of cryptid and demon for me.
Yeah.
But those are the only reports we have of this creature, and who knows? It could both be, who knows what the truth is there.
I get it, but it is interesting, like that the reports are so dissimilar because like in the main one no injuries happened, like it beat up some trees and it would growl at her and her friend, but it never laid a finger on them.
No.
So but in 1996 it was going through a more aggressive phase and was torturing this person.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Yeah. That's kind of fucked up, but okay.
So that is the Beast of Beckley.
All right.
So we have the Abbagoochie and the Beast of Beckley.
Two very different cryptids.
Two very different things. One that might not be a cryptid, but it's on the Cryptid Society's website. So I chose to include it.
Look, they are, someone's got to define these things, and might as well be the National Cryptid Society.
Yeah. So Niall, those are my two cryptids for this episode.
All right.
Like I said, I really want to dip more, and we've been kind of good about like doing a theme. So I think next time I go to West Virginia, I really want to do the river monsters.
Yeah.
Because they're pretty cool. I was reading a little bit about them. I kept running into these river monster stories, and I was like, I should just do a river monster thing.
We haven't really done like a river monster.
We've done lake monsters.
We've done like Nessie type stuff.
Yeah.
We haven't done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And those are very prominent in the United States, like all over the place.
Yeah.
So like we would be able to talk river monsters for a while.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, that Niall, unless there's anything else you wanted to bring up.
No, I don't think I have any more like clothing brand X 70s pop group crossovers to pitch. So we can go ahead and move on to a big question if you got one.
I do have a big question. And it's kind of a simple big question. It's very open. We can kind of just workshop it because I already have kind of an idea.
Fantastic.
What is it, do you think, about West Virginia that draws so many varied types of cryptids and things to that particular state? And like for people who maybe don't live in the United States, the West Virginia has a lot of, it's honestly very similar to Indiana, but it gets like a little bit more mountainous, and foresty. There's a lot of like small towns and stuff, and but would you say that's a pretty accurate?
Yeah, it is much more mountainous, and that would play into my explanation because like the thing that I think I've come to realize about cryptids overall is if we're just believing in cryptids blanket, they seem to thrive in places that humanity has not fully
developed
develop's a good word for it. Places that still have wilderness to them.
Yeah.
And especially places with some level of hostile nature,
Yeah, well, like mountains, for instance, I've are quote unquote good hiding places for cryptids and stuff. Like there's caves and things. Like there's plenty of places where something could hide, and cryptids tend to want to hide from humanity.
Yeah. And so and places that people are not regularly going to be in are better places for cryptids to thrive. So like I think that plays a big factor into it. Why like these kind of mountainous and more rural populations deal with cryptids more frequently than city folk is probably due to basically technology and population density, and just kind of infrastructure. Because the more you have paved paradise and put up a parking lot, the less cryptids really have a home. Much like most animals.
Yeah.
So humanity and cryptids are constantly at war for land and just kind of basic supremacy on the earth.
Yeah. Do you want to know my theory?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that West Virginia is the hidden location of the Cryptid Battle of the Champions.
Okay.
Where they're holding a tournament for all the cryptids to battle it out for cryptid supremacy.
Now, is that like the Contest of Champions from Marvel Comics, or is it?
I was picturing like a Soul Calibur situation, where like or really any fighting game premise, but like a Mortal Kombat sort of situation.
Tournament of I honestly forget what every fighting game championship is called, other than King of Fighters, which luckily is called King of Fighters as far as I'm aware. So so you think there's some sort of like melee happening in a remote arena.
Mountain location arena. And that's like running into the cryptids. Like this is like the last, like sort of treacherous area for the cryptids to get to the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So like you could kind of picture like a shonen anime where like cryptids are from around the world are trying to get to this one location for the tournament, so that they can then have the tournament arc season of cryptozoology. But like they run into all kinds of shit on the way there. So that's I'm kind of guessing that's what it is. And, Mothman probably like presides over the whole scenario.
The incumbent champion basically of West Virginia. Yeah. Mothman has home field advantage and is the favorite in every bout.
Yeah. And like there'll be like themed things, like a dozen different kinds of Bigfoot will like battle it out sometimes. So like you'll get the stink ape versus the the wood booger. What have you ever heard of that one?
The wood booger?
Yeah, there's a I think it's actually West Virginian. There's a
okay.
West Virginian Bigfoot called like the wood booger. or something. So
okay, no,
Wood
I've not heard of that
versus Skunk Ape, and things like that.
So do you think, much like Pokemon Stadium, this thing can alter its terrain to deal with different types of cryptids?
Yes.
So you can have lake and river monster
An
battles?
acid lake opens up beneath you and stuff, and yeah, absolutely. So yeah, they'll open up for like when they need to bring in the Nessies of the world.
Now, also like Pokemon Stadium, do the announcers only have about 6 lines that they can say at any given time, and they just spam them endlessly?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes, it's exactly
things
like
are heating up.
Yeah. That is the specific. That is the actual line. Oh my god, I haven't played that game in so long.
It's there's a time when we have an N64 in this household, and there's a time when Jules would just hook it up and play Pokemon Stadium.
We played a bit in the back in the day as well.
Oh yeah, we played plenty of Nintendo back when when we first got it. But yeah, so I was reminded of the like, I don't know, maximum 12 vocal lines that were given to the announce team on Pokemon Stadium.
I feel like in fact, I know for a fact that we talked about this before, but I am eagerly anticipating the Cryptid fighting game. There just needs to be a Cryptid fighting game. I mean, you have an incredible roster that's just out there in the world.
I'm sure someone's made a Mugen pack.
So,
but it's you know, and honestly with Mugen you get the added benefit of being able to make Mothman fight Hank Hill. So like that's just kind of cool.
That's true.
I will say for I guess, I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but it just got announced. They're adding the Pokemon Stadiums to the Switch Online thing.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Along with GoldenEye.
Oh, yeah, I did see that. There's like online multiplayer now, too.
You all can go, I believe so. You all can go check my memory of the Pokemon Stadium vocal lines if you want to.
Hell yeah.
Coming up soon on the Switch Online system.
I really did love those games.
They were really fun. Like, I always liked Pokemon, but I wasn't at like I liked it through Gold and Silver and stuff, and Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2 and those kind of things. But I didn't really follow it past that. But like, I loved Pokemon Stadium because it was so just like, the mini games were fun. Mm-hmm. The base game was fun. Oh. You could transfer your stuff from your game, so there was like, you know, an element of like, oh, I want to bring my good shit in here. Mm-hmm. And you could challenge your friends and stuff. It was great.
Loved those mini games. The Lickitung Sushi mini game was one of my favorites.
An all timer. Along with was it Jigglypuff that did the teaching thing?
And it was Clefairy.
Clefairy, that was what it was.
Teaches typing.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah. So
it was a memory game, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's
directions and buttons and stuff.
A lot of fun. Anyway, imagine if that game, but cryptids.
Yeah. We're getting those mini games, but wrestlers here in the AEW game.
That's true. I like that fact I like that aspect of that game.
Yeah.
So yeah,
let's take care of business.
Yeah, you ready to move on to business?
Yeah. If you want to follow us, you can follow us on Twitter at IGW Podcast.
You can follow us on Facebook.com/ItGetsWeirdPodcast.
And we're on all your favorite podcatchers, from Stitcher to Google Play to Apple Podcasts to Spotify. If you listen to podcasts somewhere, look up It Gets Weird and we're probably there.
ItGetsWeirdPodcast@gmail.com. Who are you maining in the Cryptid fighting game? Email us and let us know. And if you send us something funny, maybe we'll read it on the fucking show.
Or interesting.
Interesting. We'll read it on the fucking show. Patreon.com/ItGetsWeird. We have a $2 tier and a $5 tier. At the $2 tier, we got a show called It Gets Weird TV. We're watching weird television. We're about to wrap up the final 3-part episodes of Gravity Falls. Yep. And finish up that and then move on to a new series soon. And if you want to vote, you have to donate at least to the $2 tier or the $5 tier if you're feeling juicy. So yeah, every other week you get It Gets Weird TV. At the $5 tier, you get It Gets Weird TV, as well as another show on the off weeks of It Gets Weird TV. So you're getting bonus content every single week at $5. Whether you donate to the $2 tier or the $5 tier, you get access to our mainline episodes 2 days early on Friday instead of Sunday. You get access to our Discord, where we're chatting about all our favorite cryptid-related shit all the time. So please donate. And we also have our $1 tier that's kind of just a tip. You don't get anything out of it. You're just saying, hey, I like your show. Here's $1. If you can't donate, please tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your congressman all about It Gets Weird Podcast.
Campaigning to get a congressional listener in 2022.
Yes.
Keep that alive.
We're getting way too close to the end of 2022, folks.
We're moving up the municipal ladder because we have some local we have like one confirmed local person, like local I guess, politician, some sort of position in a local vicinity that I sent you.
Oh, really?
A couple weeks ago. That does listen. So I'm that person. We're rooting for you to get into Congress here pretty soon.
Move them up the ladder.
Or if you know anyone else that is in Congress that listens to us, then we want to do that. So thank you. I want
confirmation that Mitch McConnell has listened to our show. He's in Congress, right?
I think so.
Oh, fuck. If he's not, I'm going to look really stupid.
Yeah.
Thank you for agreeing.
That's why I don't bring up specific people. But it's you know. Are you Googling it to see if you were correct?
Unrelated.
Oh, okay. So on that note, we'll go ahead and wrap this one up.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Cool.
Yeah, let's do
so you can just thank you all for listening to the show. And before this goes any further off the rails, I've been Niall.
And I'm Kyle signing out.
Peace.